Redeemed to Tell. That's the theme of the 47th Convention of the Pacific Southwest District, to be held June 25 to 27 in 2025 at the beautiful La Quinta Resort in La Quinta, California. Hi, I'm Mike Gibson, and it's my privilege to serve as District President of the Pacific Southwest District. Our convention theme comes from Psalm 107, verse 2. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. And boy, do we have a story to tell, don't we? Saved by God, adopted into His family in baptism, empowered by His Holy Spirit, fed through His Word and sacraments, and then as the Father sent Jesus, so He sends us. And our district has an incredible story to tell. God has been so faithful, and there's so many incredible things that have happened over these last 3 years since we were together in 2022 in Las Vegas. And during our convention, we want to tell you what God's been doing in our district. And we're going to set aside time to do that, along with worship and growth and fellowship and doing the work of the district of resourcing congregations and schools for transformed lives and to make the Great Commission real. Now, one of my jobs is to provide a district president's report. This video is part one, where we're going to look back and celebrate some of these things that God has been doing. Part two will happen at the convention when we take a look about where we need to head in the future. I thought the best way to do this report today is to make use of the resolutions that you passed in 2022 that were specifically applied to the district, kind of our marching orders, because I have to also give you a report on the status of those resolutions. So let's use the resolutions as the outline for what I'm about to share. The first resolution we're going to take a look at is 100 in 10. We think this is the most important marching orders you gave us in 2022. It is the goal of establishing 100 new intentional gospel proclaiming ministries in the Pacific Southwest District between then and our 100th anniversary in 2030-31. Now, that doesn't mean new churches, but it could. We also have, and I'll share more about this in part two of my report, a whole new church planting movement that is beginning in our district. But it doesn't require it to become brick and mortar churches. 100 new gospel proclaiming ministries. One of those is a Bible study that happens under a tree in a park after a Saturday morning regular soccer match. Or a congregation that discovered that the senior living facilities around them had no regular ministry presence, and they now have 3 additional worshiping communities. It's exciting to be able to see these. And you've been reading about them in our God at Work e-news that we have been sending out throughout these last 3 years to celebrate some of the examples and to encourage you to be thinking about the ways that you could participate in this as well. 38 out of the 100 have already been identified. Pretty amazing, huh? I bet we blow through that 100 number, God be praised, and we're going to see even more than we could imagine or think. Now, one of the things that our board of directors did was to make a strong commitment to pursuing 110. And because of that, they said it needed some specific staff attention. Now, Dominic Rivkin had been serving as our ministry and missions executive, but then we took him after the convention and kind of broke that off and had him focus just on the mission side of things in helping to drive that 110. And he has done a phenomenal job at that. Jim Hinkle joined our staff to ensure that our existing congregations were receiving ongoing support and encouragement and assistance as they navigate the various seasons of ministry. We are so blessed to have 2 executives that partner with me in these ways. Now, you've probably heard that Dominic's going to be leaving us. My heart breaks. He's a dear friend, and I have been so grateful to be able to serve with him. He and his wife Cassie are going to be doing ministry now up in Idaho at a phenomenal multi-site Christian camp that's headquartered on Lake Coeur d'Alene. Not a bad place to be. So that means that we're going to be looking, as a board of directors, for that next person to come in alongside of us and then lead us in the pursuit of 110, as well as our next church planting emphasis. The second resolution is one that we call PSD People for PSD Ministries. It's about church worker recruitment. Of course, this is a big deal within the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. The Set Apart to Serve initiative of our Synod. Be part of that, encourage that as we find ways of looking at our young people and older people and say, I see in you someone that God might be calling into ministry. I see the gifts, I see the passions, I see the heart. Because that's where it begins. Almost every church worker reports that it was someone who suggested to them that they might be a pastor or an educator or a director of Christian education or a director of parish music, all those various positions. And it's up to each of us to initiate those conversations. Now, in a way to help that process, we formed a recruitment, retention, and worker health, because that's part of retention committee that's under the leadership of Jim Hinkle and Rachel Klitzing, Maddie Gong, and others who are working so hard in order to do better at all of those things. And one of the things I'm very excited to report to you are some numbers that we've received from our own Concordia University Irvine. In 2022, there were 63 church work students in all the various categories. 29 of those were from the Pacific Southwest District. In 2023, 67 and 23 from Pacific Southwest District. Took a little bit of a drop. But then in 24, we jumped to 72 church work students, with 33 of those being from Pacific Southwest District. And in 2025, it's 76 students and 39. So you see that we're starting to see movement and growth across all those categories. We don't just need pastors and DCEs. We need Lutheran educators too. And I'll talk more about that at a later resolution discussion. But I also want you to know that we are so excited and kind of joyfully proud and thankful to our God that we will have in the 2025-26 academic year 49 men from our district preparing in all the various categories for pastoral formation. I'm excited about that, and I hope that you are too. There have been at times so many men that need to be interviewed and prepared and assisted in the application process that we formed an interview committee that I am so grateful my predecessor, Dr. Larry Stotterow, chairs, and has built a team of others around him who have been able to interview these students and get them into seminary. Sometimes it takes them 2 days to be able to do the list of students because there's so many that we need to welcome and to encourage into this role. I also want you to know that during the last 3 years, we have helped congregations call 64 new pastors. Now, 30 of those are those that came from outside the Pacific Southwest District. 5 of them returned to the Pacific Southwest District. They knew that you just can't really leave. And then 29 of those were calls that occurred from within our district. This is one of the most important areas of focus for us as district and as synod, and that is to ensure that, as Jesus taught us, the second prayer, what to pray, Lord's Prayer first, second prayer is pray for workers in the harvest field. And I invite you to join me in that prayer and join me in that invitation, I see in you. Let's watch God do incredible things in these next 3 years in our worker enlistment, retention, and worker health. Number 3, expand the work of the Mission Training Center. Boy, what an incredible gift God has given to His church in the Mission Training Center. What is it? It is our lay ministry online training resource. MissionTrainingCenter.com, all one word, .com. And you're going to find some incredible things there. Ways that lay people within congregations can be equipped to better come alongside their pastor and assist in the ministry that God has given us of bringing Jesus to the world and to the care of the people of our congregations. One of the greatest things that's happened in the last 3 years around the Mission Training Center was the discovery and hiring of the Reverend Jonathan Priest, who is our director of the MTC. Jonathan is a creative, wonderful man who gets it from the pastoral side and from the education side. And through that, he has helped us to revamp the entire program. We now offer 17 different courses in a mix of 8 and 4-week classes that run $150 or $300 depending on the length. A phenomenal deal in order to get the equipping at some significant levels of helping you be a better Bible student, a better partner in ministry, and to be able to bring the hope of Christ not only through worship, but also through the ministry of the Word that is shared in congregations, in care, and in the world at large. Now, one of the things that I asked MTC to do was to create a new tool, a new resource that our schools could use. Because we discovered that we have a lot of educators that are working in our Pacific Southwest District Lutheran schools that are not Lutheran. And that means that they don't necessarily have the same doctrinal understanding or the same perspective on how to look at the Word of God. And so how do we equip these dear saints who love Jesus but are committed to their Catholic church or their Baptist church or their non-denom, their Presbyterian church, whatever it might be, who say, I love teaching here, but I'm staying at my church? Well, how do we help them get those foundations so that we're confident that what they're teaching in class about the faith that we confess is consistent to what we believe? And so they formed Foundations for Lutheran Teaching. It's a series of 5 courses that can be done in 1 year at a phenomenal price. And in doing so, you're going to see that there's classes like What Lutherans Believe and Why, Jesus Through the Bible, Teaching the Faith, Spiritual Development of Students, and Spiritual Wellness and the Educator. Now, this does not take the place of colloquy. We're hoping it might interest others into moving into teacher colloquy, but the purpose of it is to see greater alignment in what we're teaching around baptism, Word of God, Lord's Supper, living out our lives. And Luther's Small Catechism is a critical part of this coursework that helps us make sure that we have some consistent theology that's happening across the board. Now, what do we ask you as congregations to do with it? Discover who those people are within your school faculties and then invite them to participate. And then we encourage, as a little carrot, in order to get them to do it, pay for it, and then maybe even give them a few percentage points increase on their salary as a thank you and a blessing because of the confidence that He gives you. Now, this particular coursework is reserved for our kindergarten up. It's not a preschool educator type program. We have that program available on our website already in our school resources called Making Jesus Real, and we encourage you to use that at the preschool level. It's an exciting time to watch what God's doing at Mission Training Center. Resolutions 4 and 5, not too exciting, but really, really important. Resolution, the 4th one, was to update our bylaws. Our bylaws had not been updated in some time, and each district has its own set of bylaws that have to be in concert with the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod's Constitution and bylaws. They go through the Commission on Constitutional Matters, they have to be approved, and then you all voted them into being. those are set and you can find them in your convention workbook as a way to review how it is we function from elections through the various committees that are part of what we do as district. Now, the fifth one was the realignment of our circuits in the Las Vegas and then the Colorado River area down at the border of California, Nevada, and Arizona, so that we could better group those churches so that their function together in ministry and fellowship and support was better able to happen with that realignment. But I want to talk about realignment for a moment because this has been a part of conversation that's been ongoing during this triennium. Pastor Jonathan Berkey, who is the secretary of the Pacific Southwest District Board of Directors, led an effort in order to think through how we might realign our congregations to form circuits. It's going to probably mean a reduction in the number of circuits, but how can we better organize them in order to help us function the best, not only in our visitation and our geographical connections as congregations, but also when it comes time to forming what are called electoral circuits for synodical conventions. Well, as that work was being done, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod began to talk about redoing the levels, the numbers, the qualifications for circuits. And so we decided to hit pause because we anticipate that they're going to reduce the required number of communicant members in a circuit for its minimum and as well as its maximum. And in doing so, kind of allow us to be a little more fluid in what we're going to do with realignment. So watch for that in the next triennium as we work to reorganize ourselves on how we function, maybe even looking at the various regions that we have. We have 4 currently within our district as we think through what's the best way to do the best ministry support for the congregations of our district. Strengthening non-voting advisory delegates at convention. Now, what is that? In 2022, we tried something new, and that was to have a select group of commission ministers who became advisory voting delegates and sat on the convention floor alongside of pastoral and lay delegates in order to help us hear their advice. So whenever we had a resolution, we heard first from 30 commission ministers who were advising us as to what they thought. Now, their vote didn't count in the totality of the decision, but it offered the advice of the commission ministers who had talked and worked together to understand the resolutions and to come forward with what they thought was the best recommendation to the district. And we want to do that again this year, and you can find that information on your district website where our convention is located. It lists all the requirements, all the responsibilities, and we're right now in the process of getting those 30 identified in order to get them in place and ready to go for convention. Each congregation has the right to put forward a commission minister, and we encourage you, read the laws, read the rules, take a look at all the requirements, and then please submit the names of commission ministers. As district, we help cover expenses for those commission ministers. We just ask that you help them get where they need to go at our La Quinta location. The 7th one we want to look at today is a resolution that rejected racism. Now, you're going to see on the screen a much longer title for this. This was one of those things that was talked about a lot on the convention floor, and the title started getting wordsmithed, but you'll see it and you'll understand what it's about. There were some requirements in there that we were going to provide resources to the congregations of the district, and then at convention this year, in 2025, we were going to talk about these things. This is a resolution that's still in process. The individuals that I had tapped to be able to assist and make this happen changed roles, took other calls, moved out of the area, and so because of that, we had to do a reset. And I want to say thank you to Region 1 Vice President Joe Barron out of Santa Clarita, Bethlehem Lutheran Church, because he picked up this project and he's been working with it and getting us ready for convention. One of the things that I did ask him to do, because this topic came out of all the volatility of those COVID and post-COVID days, that I asked him, with all the things going on in our world today, that he would also add to it a focus around the issues of immigration and how that might dovetail into that specific topic. So look for a time in your convention schedule when you're going to see we're going to talk at tables in the convention hall about this topic, and to see if we can't get ourselves started in resourcing to be the kind of district that God would want to use to reach all people with the greatest hope of Jesus Christ without any hesitation and with the excitement of the partnerships that we have, no matter who we are. In 2022, you approved a resolution to make prison ministry an important part of the Pacific Southwest District's efforts. We're very fortunate to have the Reverend Art Stevens, who is a prison chaplain, who was deployed in that role out of Grace Lutheran Church in Los Angeles. And he's also part of Synod's task force on prison ministry. And Art has helped us with resources to help you, our congregations and schools, think about how you could be more engaged in prison ministry for those who are incarcerated and their families, as well as the victims. Take a look at the resources that are on our district page. Look for prison ministry, and you'll find some helpful resources that Art has prepared for us that will assist us and assist you in taking initial steps in following Jesus' invitation in Matthew chapter 25. When, Lord, did we see you in prison and visit you? And Jesus said, whenever you did it to the least of these, you've done it to me. Take a look and see what God might be saying to you about prison ministry. As someone who loves church history, this next resolution, actually it's the last of them, is one that I'm really excited about, and that is the celebration of our 100th anniversary of the Pacific Southwest District that will take place in that ultimate moment during the June 2031 convention. We have a few years between now and then, and so there's some things we need to do. There's 3 areas we're going to work on. First of all, it's how do we get and capture the rest of the story. There was a wonderful little book that was put out a long time ago in 1959 called The Romance of Lutheranism in California. It took the story from the 1860s all the way up to about 1955, and then it stopped. That's a great resource, and we're going to make it available as an electronic book on our website. But I also want you to know that we're going to be asking you as congregations in schools to help us build a book, an electronic book. It's called a flip book. And we're going to be able to provide you with a template that you can use in order to write your story, capture the dates, get the names, and submit some pictures. And then it will all kind of just populate, I guess, and help create this new resource that will bring the story of the Pacific Southwest District all the way up to today. There's very little about Nevada. There's very little about Arizona in the Romance of Lutheranism because it's a California focus. We need to hear from everybody. So you be watching for us as we put this together. Now, the second category that we're working on is during the 100th anniversary year, from July 2030 to June 2031, we want to provide monthly resources to congregations and schools to help you learn the story. We're going to take 1 decade per month and be able to give you some things, some stories, some photos that would help you see and understand where we came from. One of my favorite phrases is, we all stand on someone else's shoulders. There are always those who went before us. What did they do? How did they do it? How did they sacrifice for the sake of the kingdom? Because learning those stories help us do better at telling ours. And the final one is that convention in 2031 will be a great celebration of 100 years of ministry in the Pacific Southwest District. So start looking, keep your eyes open, because those things are going to be coming to you later this year as we get started on capturing the rest of the story of the Pacific Southwest District. We're done now with those resolutions, but there's still a few things that I want to cover with you. And the first is our schools. We still have more schools than any other district in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. Preschool through high school, we have 148 schools. And in those schools, there are children who are learning about Jesus, and they're getting the greatest academics, and they're getting loved and cared for with the love of Jesus out of our educators, and they're taking that home. And through that, we know that there are families that are being transformed for generations because of our Lutheran schools. Every day in the Pacific Southwest District, right around 20,000 students are participating in our schools. Just imagine what that influence is for the gospel. And you know, our congregations that make a solid, determined effort that their school is their number one mission, and they're connected and sharing, and the pastor and the staff are connected and spending time in and around the school with the families and the children. They are seeing wonderful growth in their congregations because of the hope of Christ that's offered. And baptisms that happen throughout our district are in the hundreds every single year. Now, during this triennium, I offered a vision for our schools, and that is that the schools of the Pacific Southwest District would become the private schools of choice in the southwestern United States. And boy, did we grab hold of that. That became an exciting challenge, and our board of directors caught it. We have been so blessed by Rachel Klitzing, our executive director of schools, that we said, let's add somebody else to help make this happen. And so we gave her a partner and another one of our school execs who serves in the role of the superintendent of school innovation, and that's Mrs. Unju Kim. And we're excited to say that Unju's job is to try to help our schools raise that level of education so that we truly can become the private schools of choice in the Southwest. One of the other things that she's doing, and this is a passion project for her, is she's helping our schools to appropriately introduce AI technology to assist our educators in doing the greatest job possible in equipping our children for life. Now, I mentioned Rachel earlier. There's a lot to say about Rachel Klitzing. She has served our district for 28 years, well, a little more than that, as our executive director of schools. And Rachel has announced that she's going to retire at the end of July. Oh, how I am going to miss my friend and ministry partner. And I hope all of you will join me in giving thanks to God for her and for the incredible service that she has done to resource congregations and schools together, because it's church and school ministries, to help them be everything they can be in seeing these little ones come to know Jesus and their families being influenced for eternity. We're going to take some time during convention to be able to celebrate Rachel. Make sure you're watching for that on your schedule. Now, I'm very excited to share with you that God has provided our next school executive who's going to join our team, and that is Mrs. Xavria Schwartz. She's been the administrator principal at Christ Lutheran Church and School in La Mesa in San Diego, and has done a wonderful job there. Is well known within our district, has been involved in district school leadership for years. And Xavria is going to join our team. She's going to begin June 23rd. You got that right, June 23rd, 2 days before the convention starts. But we're excited to be able to have some overlap for Xavria and Rachel. And one of the things we want you to know, because no one should have to try to follow in Rachel Klitzing's shoes, we have retooled our position that Xavria is going to come into. We're now calling it the Executive Director of School Administration. And Xavria will serve right alongside Unju Kim as our co-execs and do, I know, a wonderful job in helping our schools continue in their mission of connecting kids and families to Jesus, but also to be able to bring that hope of Christ into the greater community and the world. join me in celebrating our schools. Let's talk finance, which I know is everybody's favorite topic, but I tell you what, I want to encourage you to take a look at the financial report and the convention workbook. We have received from Synod's auditors a clean audit for the last 3 years. And I mean clean, not even a comment on how we could improve our practices. I'm very, very proud of our financial team, and I hope you are too. Now, you'll note in the financial report that we have various streams of income, from congregational giving to second and third source incomes, from interest income and all the rest of that. What's happening is so much more today of our work that we're doing as district is having to be covered by those second and third sources because our congregational giving has been declining. We have about 50% of our congregations that actually give on a regular basis to the ministry that I've been describing to you for these last 20 minutes or so. What I think sometimes might happen is some confusion. Every first quarter of the year, our finance team sends out an invoice to congregations for convention costs. And we do that every year so it doesn't pile up every third year. But it's $3 per communicant member that congregations then submit to help cover the convention expenses. I sometimes think that congregations, just not knowing, think that's their contribution to the district, when in reality, it's kind of an invoice to help pay for all of this convention stuff that we do together. If that's you, I would encourage you, meet in your church council, your board of directors, your voters meetings, and consider being regular, faithful supporters of what we're doing. It's amazing that the work that this district does in order to resource you as congregations and schools, to help you get educators, to help you find a principal, to help you find a pastor when you have a vacancy. All of that is just a little bit of what we're doing when you think about all the other stuff that's offered through this ministry. Join us in being that kind of partner. And then finally, within that, we take 10% of whatever the congregations give, and then we forward that on to the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod for its ongoing finance and support. So thank you for your prayerful consideration around that. And we look forward to being able to do even more because of that partnership. Real Estate Solutions. Now, that's a new name for most of you. Real Estate Solutions is a partnership with the Pacific Southwest District and the Lutheran Church Extension Fund. Let me tell you how it happened. As a district, we are constantly faced with providing leadership to congregations and assistance to congregations about what to do with property, excess property. Is it possible to develop it for sustaining income for their ministry? What happens when a church closes and the property is returned to the district so that it can be used for continued Lutheran Church Missouri Synod ministry? What do we do with a piece of property that has so much deferred maintenance that we can't afford to fix it and it needs to be torn down? What do we do with that property? We have a practice that we call retain, remodel, replant, and it's kind of just a little thinking tool that we have about how do we work with congregations in those areas and properly steward these gifts that in our part of the world are worth a lot of money, and to do it well. And so we asked Lutheran Church Extension Fund for some help, and they created an organization that they call Real Estate Solutions. Now, Real Estate Solutions helps us do exactly what we asked for. I mean, our staff, we're not in the real estate business. We're in the resourcing congregations and schools to talk about Jesus business. And we really don't have any business spending our time on property issues. And so what's happened is we've kind of gone into business a little bit with Res Solutions in taking a look at how we can best do this work of reimagining properties for the future. Let me just give you an example, two of them, one in Norwalk, one in Riverside, where we had churches that closed, and both of them are in kind of a difficult condition. And so making a difference or reusing them as they are is going to be hard. And so we've got plans to scrape those properties and create something new. Now imagine this, a new way of thinking about providing for church. Let's just look at the Riverside property. We're going to put on that 3.5 acres about 70 units, standalone townhouses, and there's going to be a community center on that location that's going to be a gathering place that we can use for ministry. And one of those townhouses will be reserved for one of our pastors, our mission developers for that area. And because the district contributes the land, we receive sustainable income that can be applied to that ministry and location. Pretty cool, huh? It's a very different, very creative way of doing things. Now, it's not just all about taking properties and scraping them, but how can we assist you as congregations when you've got, hey, we've got 1.5 acres we do nothing with. We have a resource where we can help you think about what you might be able to do with that, and in doing so, to help fund ministry in a greater way for you. Real Estate Solutions, it is a blessing to us. We are the first district in Synod to do it. We have a minor partnership with the Cal Nevada Hawaii district in this role, but other districts across the country are now looking at us and saying, wow, that works. We want to learn more about it too. So keep that in your prayers, because as churches struggle, sometimes churches close, and we need to be the very best stewards we can to help bring those resources forward again, to make a difference, to bring the kingdom of God to our world. I think many of you have heard by now that we have relocated our district office. The district office was originally on Concordia University's main campus there in the Turtle Rock area of Irvine since 1988. Concordia owns the property, the district built and owned the building. And Concordia came to us and said, we would love to have access to that building because we can do something with it and expand our ministry and touch and support of students without having to go to the city for building permits and the neighbors to get approval for new construction. And so they said, how about we swap you the same square footage, and you have at the Spectrum campus, that's where Concordia's nursing school is found, in Irvine, you have that same amount of square footage and we'll build it out for you however you want to use it. And in doing so, what Concordia did was to give us a phenomenal new space that is designed for how we think and work in this contemporary world of the 2020s. And it's given us a place where we can video conference to our heart's content in large groups and small groups. It's given us the ability to have a conference room where we can put 70 people at tables for training and preparation. We have places for entertainment. We have places for co-working groups to meet. It's an exciting location, including all the private offices around the perimeter. I invite you, come by, see what's going on here at the Spectrum campus on Laguna Canyon Road in Irvine. We're up on the 3rd floor, and we love to give tours to show you what God's doing in this and in this next season of ministry support for our congregations and schools. Well, I think that's enough for now. Part 1, we're done. Part 2 is going to come at the district convention, and I'll do that in person. But I just want to say thank you for saying yes to participating in our district convention. I'm excited about what God's going to do. I can't wait for us to tell the story of what God's doing in His faithfulness. And you're going to hear examples both through video as well as in person of these incredible ministry efforts around 110. Keep us in prayer. A lot of work that's coming together. Be in prayer as we prepare to gather, to elect officers, to do the work, to pass resolutions. Be a good student of the workbook. Get to know it, because it's going to help you as we go through the process together. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope it was instructive and helpful, gave you a little better understanding of what we're doing as district. but also gave you that update that's necessary about what's happened since the 22 convention. God bless you, give you a glorious, glorious spring, and we look forward to being with you in La Quinta in June 25 and 27. God bless you.